math. And let's go and cover, first one is solving a trigonometric equation. So in this case, we're basically looking at solving sine squared of theta equals 1. And the couple different ways to do this, and at least to explain it, but I'm going to try to keep this rather brief. The first thing I'd say is if you have trouble solving for sine of theta, just think of it as, or sine squared of theta, or any trigonometric equation. A lot of times I tell students just to replace the sine of theta for x. But please remember, sine squared of theta is sine of theta quantity squared, right? So it's equals to 1. So make sure you understand with just the notation how that's written. It really means sine of theta squared. So the first thing we want to do is undo the squaring, right? Just like we want to undo the square root here. So when you undo the square root, you're just going to be left with the sine of theta. And that's going to be plus or minus 1. Now here we're done, right? X equals plus or minus 1. There's nothing really to do here. But here we have a little bit more information. It says the sine of theta equals plus or minus 1. Well, we're trying to solve. What are we trying to solve for? We're trying to solve for the variable. Well, the variable's theta. So what does theta represent? Theta represents an angle, right? And again, please note, it's not sine times theta equals plus or minus 1, right? It's not like 2x equals plus or minus 1. No, it's the sine of theta equals plus or minus 1. So what that means is we need to think about, we don't want to use though, but in the same respect, we don't want to use the inverse sign because that has a domain restriction. And if you look at we're trying to find the solutions here. And again, when I explained this in class, I explained this using the graph. So I would maybe recommend also looking at Desmos to be able to help you understand this, or graphing it using Desmos. And also use the unit circle, which I'm going to use in this case. But we don't want to use the sine inverse to solve for here because that's going to have a restriction on it. And we're trying to find all the values between 0 and 2 pi. So to explain that, I'm going to look at the unit circle. And on the unit circle, sine, which represents the y coordinates here, is going to equal the 1 up here, positive 1, and down here for negative 1. So now we're really looking for, well, what are the angles between 0 and 2 pi? Now remember, 0 and 2 pi is all the way around there, right? So we're looking at this angle and this angle. Oops. Come on. There you go. This angle and this angle. Oh, come on. Crazy. Okay. Now we don't want to go negative because you can see the constraint is only positive angles. So therefore I can say theta is going to